Hi, it's Melissa, and I'm back with another layout that I made with my October Clique kit. And this is a pretty clean and simple one for me. I really wanted to focus on using these Pink Fresh Studio acetate cards. And when I started this layout, I knew that I wanted to kind of lay them out like I've got them now, but mix it up with some photos as well. So I've used 3 photos that I took, would have been this year. Although the one of my little one was taken Boxing Day, so end of last year, beginning of this year, but last summer anyway. So I just used one of the cards to trace around the edge, or just cut around the edge of the photo, and went from there. So all 3 photos were 4x6, and I just used it as a guide, like I said. And the best thing is, because they were see-through, I was able to place them exactly where I wanted them. Now, I've scrapped each of my children on the same days that the photos were taken with similar photos, and the one of Azaria, which is my middle child, and the one I've placed down, that one, I think I printed that one twice, so I just had these photos left over, and I thought they'd go really well on a page together, and they weren't really, it's not that they weren't worthy of a whole page themselves, but I quite like to have pages in the family album or my own album for me. So even though my journaling will be to them, this is a layout that will end up in probably the family album. So I consider changing the orientation of the cards here, but you'll see that I'll change it out and go back to what I originally had. So it's just a case of deciding which cards I want to use and where I want my photos. So if you've never watched my videos before, I've got an 8-year-old son, a 6-year-old daughter, and little one is now 17 months. But in that photo, she would have been about 9 months. So that's a little bit about me, and of course my husband as well, who really needs to feature in some of these videos as well, some pages. So at this point, I know I want them like that, and I'm just playing around here to see what I like. I love that card exists to be happy, not to impress, but it's not going to make it on this layout. It's going to make it onto another one. So now I'm just going through the papers, and I know that I need something on the right, a strip of something, just to balance it out. And I love that paper. It's got little colourful half circles on it. And I'm enjoying a coffee while I make this layout. So I'm still mucking around with them and deciding what I like and where I want them. It's lovely spring weather in New Zealand at the moment. Pretty excited. We've had quite a cold winter. Where I live in Queenstown, it can snow anytime, so it can even snow in summer, and we're the opposite for most of you. So you're coming into autumn, we're coming into spring. One year it did snow on the mountains on Christmas Day, just a tiny little sprinkling, and I always joke because I always say I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, because really, when you guys start posting your white Christmas photos, I just wish that I could experience that. So it was kind of fun to say we had almost a white Christmas. Not really. It didn't really hang around for much. Now back to the layout, because that was really quite boring what I was just showing you there. But I definitely wanted those 2 photos of my girls to be on the left, and I did want a piece of the acetate card, so I just trimmed it down. I used my trimmer, and if your blade's quite sharp, you can do that. Alternatively, you may want to, if your blade isn't that sharp, you'll need to trim up the edges with the scissors, and I think I may have just done that there. So that's the orientation and position that I like. So what I decided to do was, for adhering these, I'm going to embellish each of them. And so once I decide what embellishment I'm going to use, I'm just going to use a tiny little piece of double-sided tape behind where I put my embellishment, and then I'm going to machine stitch around the photos and the cards. So that's why it's a bit of fussing and deciding what I want, and I thought for me that was the best way to go. I don't have a Xyron or any other way that I could think of to get these adhered. And I thought stitching, I love the look of stitching, I love the texture that it adds. So for this one, I adhered the exclusive flare badge with just some double-sided tape, and then that will enable me to have a look at the back and work out where to put the double-sided tape on the piece of card, or acetate. Same with this one, I've decided, okay, that's where I'm going to put the puffy sticker, and so then I can go ahead and commit to putting a little bit of tape. So there you can see what exactly it would look like if I just use double-sided tape to adhere it. So it's not a great look. Other ways you could adhere these, and I will be doing it on a layout that's coming up beginning of October, is I adhere one behind some other layers. So in that instance you can put your tape under it and not see it because it's hidden by paper. Another way you could do it is use your stapler. So just changing out that one because I wasn't really happy with the green, and I think that looks a lot better. And just using some double-sided tape here as well, just to get that piece down. And I'll be stitching along that piece as well. And I did cut it quite large, and at this point I decided I didn't need the whole piece, so I've just overhung, and I'll just trim it out later on. So now I'm going through just the goodies that came in the kit, and these acetate cards were one of the add-ons, and if you go into the Clique Kit store you can find all the add-ons that go with the kit, and I'll put my code below, but if you use Melissa10 when you check out, you'll get 10% off anything that you purchase in the store. That hooray for today, that's one of the cutter parts, and you would have got that in your kit, a sheet of cutter parts, and I love that because it means you can, there's something, I don't know if it's relaxing or therapeutic about just cutting apart your cutter parts and thinking about what you're going to do and how you're going to use them. And I like to cut everything apart, printables as well, and just stick everything in my little embellishment tray with my kit. So here I'm stitching that edge piece, and it's just a plain old straight stitch, and you would have seen me before. I trimmed off the edge before I did it, and I'm not going to show you all of it, but you can stitch really quite easily onto the acetate. So I'm not 100% happy with my sewing machine at the moment. It's doing this odd thing with tension. I have to keep changing the stitch length and the tension. So if anyone's got any advice on what to do there, I'd welcome it. I've tried Googling it and I'm not having much luck. So unfortunately the manual doesn't really talk about sewing on paper. So here I'm embellishing now, and you can see I just keep it in a little tray from the dollar store. And these wood veneers are just so gorgeous. I love them. I love the pattern that's printed on them. I love that you get 4 different types. There's another cut apart, and I've just cut the tiny little speech bubble off. I think it says love this, and so I'm just adhering that with a couple of tiny pop dots, and I'll just put it on the corner, and it serves to really cover up some bad stitching on the corner of that photo. Quite funny looking back at these photos because my children have all grown so much, and especially the little one, she runs now, and she was still crawling back then. So I've decided to go with that tag on that blue card, and for me I can't leave a tag without a hole punched in it, and if it's got a hole I can't leave it without some twine. So just I'm out of twine at the moment, so I'm just using twine that's in these tags that I got from local stationery shop. I'm just trimming them off and using it, and I think it goes really well with this page. It says hooray for today, and the colours and style just match, and of course they do because this kit has been put together, and the Clique Kit ladies do such a good job at making exclusive pieces that just go with the kit so beautifully. So that is a little bow, and it's a die, and it's by Pink Fresh Studio, and it was designed by Jessie Christopher, who is an amazing, amazing scrapbooker. And when I saw it, because I don't have a silhouette, so I just absolutely, I will always buy the die. And so I've used it a couple of times, and all you do is just fold it over, and I use a glue dot to secure it together. And in about a minute or so, I'm just going to put a little sequin just in the middle of the bow. Pretty cute. Did think about using this tassel, but it didn't really work, so I'm saving it for another layout. And now I've got these letter stickers, and they're also from Pink Fresh Studio, and they're an add-on, and I just put their initials on each of the photo. So I love the fact that they come in 5 different colours, and the font is cursive and really beautiful. And these, I think they're sequins. They're really, really pretty. They're little gold dots, and I'm just adhering it with some Tombow, just a tiny little dot of Tombow, and I use my tweezers to put the little sequin on top. And I like the little extra detail that this adds. So at this point I thought about adding some more, but I think it's a bit much. And I don't often do clean and simple layouts, but these cards just really, really directed my design to be clean and simple. So I decided to tie that twine into a bow, and I'm happy with how that's looking. And I'm just folding up the edges of that paper on the right there, and now I'm adding my journaling. And I just use a Becky Higgins Project Life pen. I used to use a Smashbook pen, and I used it for probably about 5 years, and then it finally gave up and ran out. So I like the really fine point nib. I've sometimes used a bigger one, but I just like the look of thinner writing best. So now I'm just finishing up with some Heidi Swap Gold Colour Shine, and as you know, I love my colour shine, and this is my second bottle of gold, and I'm just randomly sprinkling it, and it just adds a little bit of extra detail, because I find that usually clean and simple is quite hard for me to do. I find it hard to not add more. So that's my final layout. Really happy with how it turned out, and some close-ups. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back again really soon with another process video for Clique Kits. I'll see you then. Bye.